Philippine-based Indonesian Talks. Yesterday, I've invited a special guest, and now we have an even special guest here joining us. Specialer guest here. If it's not inside the dictionary, let's just add it there, because language is a human construct. But anyways, I have with me today Mrs. Marsha Siagian.
Pleased to make acquaintances with you. My name is Marsha Siagian, and I am a bit older than him.
Definitely.
And then, so I used to study overseas as well as work overseas. It totaled to about 12 years of my life. When I came back, I was a bit of a fish out of the water, because when I came back, there wasn't much friendly kind of I studied fashion in London, but before that I also studied commerce in Melbourne. So those two places are completely different, not completely different, but in Melbourne I still got some sunshine. In London I was depressed all the time because it was like hi people in Europe, like you have two colors, either white or gray, which one do you want?
Yes, it's either of the two.
And a lot of vitamin D deficiency. So when I came back, apart from that, the museum culture was perfect, excellent, full of exhibitions, temporary ice rinks, etc. So when I came back to Jakarta, I felt like I was banished.
You were banished?
Yeah.
And you spent most of your life here in Indonesia, and then you went abroad to Australia and the UK.
Yeah.
For several years, 5 years, give or take?
6.5 in Melbourne and 5 years in London.
And that's 11 years.
Yeah.
So 11 years you spent abroad, and then when you came back, it felt like you were banished, even though you spent the majority of your life here in Indonesia.
Yeah. Well, I'm an anak kampung at heart, I still eat my fried catfish, etc.
Right.
But but there was that part of me that wanted to pursue a more kind of creative / technological life, that when I went back I had to dial down my expectation a bit because the ecosystem didn't exist yet. So I had to kind of restart my life. I had to make new friends again, because the last time I saw my friends were in junior high, all these things. And after I moved back from Melbourne, my friends were still in college, they were still studying. And I had already graduated and I was working in an office. So my friends, I have these Gen X friends who were a bit older, because I started work when I was 21 years old.
That was what year?
I think 2005.
2005, ladies and gentlemen. Do not let looks deceive. She is actually a vampire. She bathes in the blood of virgins.
You mean in unicorns?
In unicorns.
In unicorn blood.
I guess so.
Yeah, so.
Elizabeth Bayfori, but unicorns.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but
sure.
Before we continue on your part, I'd just like to tell my viewers that Marsha Siagian here, Mrs. Marsha Siagian here, she is actually running for a representative from the Indonesian Solidarity Party. She is what is Dapil in English? I forgot.
Election area.
Yeah, her election area is DKI 2, that's South Jakarta, Central Jakarta, and overseas.
That means
Jakarta.
Everywhere else in the world. So technically I cannot have a so-called overseas holiday.
Yeah, she cannot have an overseas
I cannot have a holiday overseas, because literally it's work.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, we decided to vote her up. We decided to bring her up here to this show to discuss about why she wants to run for a representative. What brought you into politics?
Well, technically I signed up last year.
Okay.
For the Indonesian Solidarity Party. And before that, I had been helping my friends. Let me do it in kind of slight reverse chronological order. So in 2017, I was asked to run. Maybe you're like wondering why is someone so random, an overseas, an ex-diaspora asked to run for parliament by a newbie party in 2017. Well, at that time I was pregnant, so I refused to do it. But it stayed in my mind.
She has children, by the way.
I have kids, by the way.
That looks deceived.
Yeah. And actually, earlier that year, I met up with this guy who was my mentor for the past 15 years of his life. And he told me about this new party. Join up the party. It's a good, it's a normal people's party. It's gonna make a lot of changes, a lot of good changes for people in this country. But I had my distance. I kind of wanted to observe it from afar. Maybe this is a little bit more of the so-called, is it a detachment? Kind of like some sort of emotional detachment that people have when they study a lot overseas. You kind of want to observe something. You want to make sure. You don't want to, like for me, I didn't want to jump into the euphoria of it.
Okay.
I wanted to take my time to be sure that it was something I really wanted to do. And to be honest, the pieces were always there. As I have said, I met my mentor after I met my mentor at the interview session for finalists of Miss Indonesia, of which I'm also an alumni.
Yeah, she's an alumni of Miss Indonesia.
So he asked me this question, which I felt was a trick question, and I kind of evaded the usual answer. So I gave a nuanced answer. And I saw him smile for that half a second longer, and I thought, let's follow this up later. And that became kind of unconsciously my training ground of speaking in public, of voicing my opinion in a way that is easily understandable for people, for like different stages, for like different niche groups, basically. Sorry, fashion people, niche groups. So like for the intellectuals, how to say things to intellectuals, how to say things to people who live on less than $300 a month. How do we present the same issue to make them understand that it's an important thing and to take part in what I'm trying to do? So to the point that my dad was a little bit jealous.
Your dad was a little bit jealous of you entering politics.
Entering into this kind of like more intellectual discussions about socio-political issues.
Oh, I see.
With this mentor, so because he was quite famous.
Oh, I see. Do you care to name drop your mentor?
Oh yes, I will name drop. His name was Wimar Witular, the presidential spokesperson for Gus Dur.
Oh, I see. Well, we can put like his picture right here. There you go, this is the guy.
So my dad, kind of to give a little bit of background, he was a student activist in university. In the 70s, there was this thing called malari, and he was part of it. And he was sent to jail for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks. That was during the reign of none other than Suharto himself.
Yes.
Yes, our Lord and Savior, Suharto.
Our Lord and the guy who was on the 50,000 bill for about a year and a half before they changed all the bills.
He was on the 15,000 bill?
On the 50,000 bill.
You are capping right now. Are you sure?
I am very sure. I remember he was on the either 50,000 or 100,000 on one of the biggest, like
15,000.
Yeah, 50 or 100,000.
Let me double check. He's on the 15,000. Oh my God, you're right. He's on the 50,000 bill. Oh my God. There. Oh. Suharto ternyata pernah ada di duit.
And this money was around for about like a year and a half. He was alive.
Oh my God, you fucking narcissist. Oh my God.
So that was around for about a year and a half before,
He was alive and he decided to put his own picture on the 50,000
A reality check.
That is next level narcissism.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that goes to show how much power you have as president.
Yeah, I mean,
wonder
like,
why Jokowi doesn't do it, you know?
it's a bit crass, no, to do that. It's a bit like you're wearing super branded clothing. I'm sorry for people who like that, but honestly, I would ask to be paid to wear things with the logos emblazoned on it, because
a bit of trailing off topic.
Yeah,
Would you
sure.
mind explaining your jacket today? Because I'm curious about it. It kind of looks like a 19th century hussar. And I know earlier you said this is actually a children's clothes, and I'm also aware back in the 19th century, children usually wore military outfits, you know, the cutesy, toy soldier kind of outfits.
just because this was hanging next to my bed and it's been a while and I kind of want to send it for laundry in the next few days, so I decided to wear it.
Yeah, but
And yeah, why this one?
what exactly is that?
So this vest is inspired by, like, obviously military outfits in the 19th century Europe, like European, like, military regimes. But I'm not alluding to that today. It's simply because I had this hanging next to my bed and I kind of feel tired of seeing it hanging, you know, half worn, not dirty enough to be washed, but not clean enough to put back into the cupboard.
I see. So you're basically doing what amounts as clothes leftover.
Yeah, leftover clothes.
Pretty much. So very fancy leftover.
Oh, I love
it.
I love this.
It's great.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the second question.
Okay,
you,
sure.
I understood from what you said, you want to enter politics because it felt like you belong inside that world based on your experience and all of that. Is that the right wording?
I don't think belonging is the right word.
But
it was more like things fall into place. The pieces were always there, but it's up to the person to pick up the pieces and to make the picture.
So you felt...
I mean, yeah, like when you have a Lego, you know, you have a box of Lego.
I see.
You have a lot of pieces and you do what you want to do with it. If you want to do a castle, you do a castle. If you want to do a boat, you do a boat.
I see.
Yeah.
So it just felt appropriate for you to continue your next chapter in life as a politician.
Yeah.
I see. So seeing that's your primary motive in entering politics, what exactly is it in politics? Like, what issue are you mostly concerned about, or are you focused on? You want to contribute to that issue, you want to change it, you want to address it once you have the platform. But out of all the issues here in Indonesia, which of these issues speaks to you and you want to speak about it?
I want to speak about environmental issues, and this is not because of greenwashing. It's not greenwashing. So I've been I used to have a fashion workshop where I produce all the clothes that I sold under my brand. It was probably 98% produced in-house.
I see.
Only some of the things that we don't have machines or, like, skills for that we subcontract, but most of it really happened inside the workshop.
Inside the workshop?
Yeah.
I see.
So I wanted to do that business model because I wanted to be able to make sure that people work in a livable environment, that they get paid every month, that they have some sort of like regularity to the job, that they can upskill, because I have taken like someone who could not operate a sewing machine, just like starting from hand stitching, and then like slowly bit by bit doing kind of like simple clothes, children's clothes, and then kind of more complicated things, until now she can handle pretty much almost everything. So this is the kind of thing that I like to do, and then I was also very aware of how much waste it generated. I mean, everyone knows fashion industry is quite polluting.
Yeah, it's quite polluting, most definitely.
So I was always looking for ways to kind of reduce the waste, to make the process more efficient, but at the same time having enough archive of the pattern making process, of the clothes making process, that if we need to replicate something professionally, we can always go back to that and make a copy.
I see, I see.
So, I mean, like, I have about like 1,000 patterns in my archive. And I was saving all the scraps that over the years, from the orders that I had done. And so it was actually my savior during the pandemic. I was selling, first I was trying to make, you know, there was no PPE equipment. So I was making emergency PPE suit out of raincoat material. And I gave the first few ones away for free to anesthesiologists and radiologists, because they were one of the people who would deal constantly with COVID patients. I tried to sell them to hospitals. It didn't work because everyone needed to kind of like know someone inside or pay some money.
What do you mean, like, know people inside the hospitals?
Because it was, I was finding it quite hard to, like, to even get a viewing of the things I did. Yeah, and it was kind of implied that I had to be a part of some sort of club, and there was some sort of probably prerequisites I had to complete before I could get there.
I see, I see, I see.
So it was not really, after a few weeks I felt like I was barking up the wrong tree. So whatever stock I had made, I sent away to East Indonesia, and I moved.
You donated the rest of what you have?
Yeah, I donated whatever I had for these like emergency PPE.
Okay.
And then I started making fabric masks, washable 3-layer fabric masks with nose clip and adjustable. So it was an adjustable function and with a pocket, so people can put filters into it. And I was also selling that to the 11 sectors of companies that had the right to run all around the clock. That saved my life. Actually, my scrap fabric saved my life. I didn't have to buy much fabric that year. I didn't have to monitor. I didn't have to like make so many new patterns, but orders were coming and people were buying a lot. And because people saw the quality of the things that I did, and basically if they bought 20 for themselves for a year, they would buy 20 more after. So it was kind of like, I started to feel like, okay, I'm doing something that's good, you know, I feel good about what I was doing, and it was helping people to get back to some semblance of normal life. It was also...
This was all during COVID?
During COVID.
I see.
It also freed up my time so I could volunteer. So I was volunteering in a mass vaccination center.
As vaccine?
No, I didn't have that training. I wish I had that. I want to have the certificate, to be honest.
It really helps to be a nurse.
Yeah, it helps to be a nurse. I was making sure that all the data would be correct, either at the entry point or when it was printed out, because it involved people being able to travel. It was about people's mobility, and some people don't care. You know, they would put in the mobile phone number and they would they would swap one of the numbers together, and they don't think that if that was swapped and it was not corrected, this person would never receive his or her certificate. You know, it's things like these, and I started thinking like, you know, there has to be other things which were bigger than that, which led to, actually, it was a very funny statement.
Which was?
From my daughter, who was 4 at the time. So after Delta passed, I mean, during the first part of COVID, we had really blue sky. And when things started to kind of like chug along, I think around October 2021, I was playing with my daughter. She made this comment about the sky being a different color than the sky in France. So just a bit of a backstory.
Yeah, the sky is in
Yeah,
France.
because
I'm intrigued.
so I'm married to a Frenchman.
You're married to a Frenchman.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I see, you see.
See.
So,
Oui, oui,
oui, mais pourquoi pas? So, my daughter came back and I think observed herself that the sky was of a different color. She asked me, why is the sky a different color? So I tried to answer to her, it was because of one, the pollution that came from the lack of public transport that a lot of Indonesians, including myself, had to rely on private modes of transportation, be it motorcycle, car, etc. Secondly, the energy that we use to power up electricity created smoke, and that smoke changed the color of the sky. And then she asked me again, if there were cars in France, why is the color of the sky blue in France? What do they use for electricity in France? I mean, like, this was coming from a 4-year-old, okay?
I thought for a second, she would say that the sky in France is the color, the tricolor, blue, white, and red. Because you did mention the skies in France was a different color. And if I'm not mistaken, back in COVID, Jakarta's skies was normal. And we all know skies are normal, it's blue.
Yeah.
It's blue and white. It's neither of that color. I was like, what could be of a different color than blue and white?
According to her now, it's either gray or yellow.
According to her, it's gray or yellow. Well, she's not really far off from the truth, Yeah, pollution is really, pollution is a huge problem in Jakarta. Yeah, but please go on.
So, what people used to make electricity in France, and I said nuclear power. And then she wanted to write letters to the president
of France.
Macron, actually.
Macron.
Macaron.
What the fuck is Macron?
So at first I was quite shocked. Not even at who she was about to write to, but to even think about writing a letter to the president. For me, it was like, why is this coming from my 4-year-old? So of course, as a mom, I would ask again, like, well, that's a good idea, dear. What would you like to write in it?
Wait. Is she going to write letters to President Macron or Jokowi?
She wanted to write to both.
She wanted to write to both?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, the French president is open to letters from children all over the world, but I don't know about Jokowi though.
Well, so this was in 2021 when she said that at that time she told me she was not able to write yet, so she kind of wanted me to write the letter and
so
for her to copy.
To write again.
Yeah,
to write to
which I felt like a really tall order for a girl her age. And that actually made me think, if she was 4 and she could do her activism, I've been wasting my life.
What do you mean by that?
I felt like I had been wasting my life. I mean, like, she knew what had to be done. She was going to write a letter about it.
Ah, I see. So that inspired you to focus on environmental issues.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very wholesome to know that children can inspire us. They're the byproducts of human ingenuity. They seem to know what to do, but they just can't articulate it. And as adults, we know exactly what they're trying to do. They just see the writings on the wall. And frankly, we can understand the context, the pretext of what's written on the wall. And it's quite nice that you find your inspiration to focus on environmental issues from your daughter? But please go on.
So 2 years kind of passed. She learned to write, etc. She's now 6, and a few months ago, well, she was on holiday, and at that time I found out that there was a chance of me meeting Jokowi. So I asked her to write a letter.
So you want to give it straight to...
I was like, hey dear, I thought,
Yeah.
okay dear, you had this idea 2 years ago, now she's prepared herself enough for it. Now is the time. So she wrote the letter.
So she wrote the letter.
Yeah, she wrote the letter.
First letter, she wrote it to the president.
Yeah.
She
Let's put
seems
it
to
up.
be a very ambitious girl.
Let's put it up here.
Yeah. Could you please send me the letter? you gotta need to like send the letter here, right here.
It was kind of unfortunate that a few days before I think 2 days before the event, I found out that it was not going to be Jokowi attending, but Gibran. Nevertheless, the letter was there, so I brought it up.
So you give it to Gibran instead.
Yeah, I asked him if he was willing to give it to Jokowi, and he said yes, so I gave it to him.
Okay, and did Jokowi ever came back to you with the letter?
Are you going to come back to me? To my daughter, really?
Yeah, I believe he receives thousands of, of letters each and every single day, strongly worded to squigglies. Yeah, please go off.
Yeah, so that was the kind of the main focus for me, because the more I get into it, the more I realize we need time to make these kind of changes, to use to source the majority of our electricity needs from renewables. Previously, it took 50 years from the invention of the water wheel to the adoption of the steam engine. From the adoption of the steam engine to the adoption of transmitted electricity by grid. And probably it's going to take 50 years from transitioning from fossil fuels to renewables. I am saying that fossil fuels have its part in our life, in our modern or postmodern world, because it is very energy dense. So when we need to travel, we need it to be kind of like compact. But when we don't need the energy to travel far, let's use renewables.
Yeah. I guess this really does segue into the topic of sustainable development. I guess so. I noticed like a lot of, it's also renewable energy as well. I also noticed like a lot of representatives here in Indonesia, they don't really talk about renewable energy that much. Representatives, they usually talk about, oh yes, in their campaign slogan, let's make things cheaper for people, let's make things easier for people, let's make people more happy. But what does that entail? That entails decreasing the prices of oil, of gas, decreasing the prices of basic needs. But then that's just that. It doesn't really solve any sort of issue.
It doesn't really address the underlying change that we are seeing.
Yeah, it's like you just address the issue of the day. Prices can soar up, prices can soar down, depending on the weather.
If the weather is unreliable, getting more and more unreliable, what are we doing to make the weather more reliable?
Yeah, and it's always a breath of fresh air to see, a representative talk about renewable energy, sustainable development, and all of the long-term issues that I feel like we need to start focusing on now. So why do you think that's the case in Indonesia?
Why do I think renewables is important?
Why do you think representatives don't focus on renewable energy that much?
I think it's not an immediately visible gain.
It's not a physical gain.
It's not immediately something that you can see, okay, make this regulation, and within 1 year you can see the difference. Maybe you can see the cleaner sky, but for the metrics to tally up, it will take maybe 5 to 10 years.
I see.
For example, I mean, I do a lot of belusukan. I go to the underprivileged neighborhoods, really packed, like places where you thought people couldn't live. And you know, when COVID started, we would say like, you know, lock up, stay at home. Nobody wants to stay at home in those kind of places because it is so stuffy and humid and hot.
Yes, it's so dense.
It's so dank. I mean, like,
dank.
It's just like, I mean, you can come with me on one of these like walkabouts, and I want to see if you can survive without the air conditioning, without the air filter that we use. It's crazy. And
is that
babies,
is that a rhetorical question?
Like,
or do
it's,
you want,
I mean, like, if anyone watching wants to come with me on one of the walkabouts, let me know.
All right.
I'll try to set it up for you.
She's open to having you civilians, you unwashed masses.
No, they are washed and perfumed masses.
Okay, washed and perfumed masses. That's, you know, that's what we say to polite. You know, to make things more polite, I guess.
Yeah, but you can come and see it for yourself. And in these kind of places, I would invariably see every now and again a mom telling me, you know, I would tell them, oh yeah, I have X number of kids, and they would say, yeah, I have that number too, but the youngest one passed away.
What?
Yeah.
And you always get that?
Every few days I would get that.
Every few days, so it's a regular occasion.
And I would ask like, I would say, of course, I'm really sorry for your loss. Would you mind telling me more about it? Oh yes, my child, invariably be 1 or 1.5 years old, succumbed to respiratory diseases, illnesses, infections. So, I mean, I live my comfortable life. I don't have to be in politics. I mean, I can stay in an air-conditioned room, air-filtered room, and not care about the world. But there are people out there whose children are dying out of this.
Every single thing.
And these are just a few that I see. There must be more of them. We are wasting away the potentials of our country. I mean, let's say these are the kind of like the ones who could not afford to run an air filter at home. That's from a quality of life point of view, while switching to renewables. Number 2, in Indonesia, we spend about 175 trillion rupiah, or the equivalent of more than or almost $11 billion in fossil fuel subsidy every year for a lower quality of life.
For a lower quality of life.
It costs $12 to make 1 kilowatt hour of fossil fuel electricity, but the country is subsidizing 2 cents. So it is sold by the state monopoly at 10 US cents per kilowatt hour. But if you use renewables, it could be the cost of electricity per kilowatt hour will be lower. It will be 2.5 to about 6.5 US cents per kilowatt hour.
But would it be like a huge challenge for Indonesia in order to begin adopting renewable energy as a serious form of, you know, of energy that we use in our daily lives?
I think there is always the fear that renewables will. How can renewables supply enough electricity? Let's say. Well, it's just a house mom mentality, you know, right? I mean, you make do with lowering the cost and increasing the quality of something with the same amount of money. If we could switch part of our energy consumption, our energy generation actually, to renewables, we will be freed from having to pay this subsidy, part of this subsidy, which can be used for other people with, for example, for education, for better nutrition, for, I think, some parts of climate resilience, for food, for crops. So things like this can be better funded. I mean, this is a house mom's, if someone sells eggs for 25,000 a kilo here and the other person sells for 24,000, you go for the cheaper one, obviously.
Yeah, obviously you go for the cheaper one.
I mean, like, same eggs, you go for the cheaper one.
Yeah, so what are you saying is that if we invest on renewable energy, invest our resources, our attention, our efforts on renewable energy, it will save us cost like it's never before, and we can use that, we could use the leftover funds, funnel them into other sectors of, social concerns.
Yes, and also, we need to make the investments. So instead of having a running cost, I mean, like a subsidy is a running cost, we might as well use the money for capital investment.
Yeah, but there is also a challenge of how, government, the authorities sometimes afraid of innovation because it's a huge business risk.
Well, you can acknowledge the risk, or you can bury your head in the sand, and in 50 years we will all be underwater. Which one do you choose?
Oh, I see. This has something to do with land subsidization?
Yes, it has to do with that too. Because the more fossil fuel we use, the more volatile gases we release to the atmosphere, the more global warming is happening, the more sea levels are rising. I mean, we can already see that there are mosques. There is a mosque submerged in north of Jakarta starting in 2010 or 2011. So, if you keep burying your head in the sand, I think you will find your house floating in the sea quite soon.
I see.
And 50 years is not a long time. I mean, it's not a long
single
time.
Generation.
Yeah, not even a single generation. I mean, like, a generation is about 70, 75 years. So
I see. So it's like, I don't know, 80% of a generation.
70%, yeah. So 70%. So it's kind of, we have to do it. I mean, why would you collect wealth in form of real estate if it's gonna go down the drain in the next 50 years? I'm not talking about this from an aggressive point of view. I'm defending, if anything. And for people who think, let's say, for the business people who believe that renewable is a threat to their business line, I really beg them to reconsider it as part of their diversification strategy. Because when they need to invest, they also need to think about the world that is becoming more and more volatile. The weather pattern is changing. If you're rich enough to go to Japan to see sakura blooming, you know that the dates are changing. Let's say we pick Tokyo as the point that we look at. It used to be April, early to mid-April. Now it's kind of like late March to early April.
Yeah,
you can see it happening. So please don't bury your head in the sand. Make the right investments, diversify, and maybe we will all be okay.
But is this pretty much like the bog standard, Indonesian Solidarity representatives? Are they of the same cut as you are, or how would you describe your party's primary concern? Like, what are all the representatives mostly concerned about? obviously you focus on environmental issues.
Mm-hmm.
And from your point of view, where exactly does other representatives stand?
I think a lot of them are quite welcoming to my stance.
So you would say a significant number of Indonesian Solidarity Party representatives, they also stand for environmental issues.
Yeah, they do.
I
Maybe
see.
they don't understand it as much as, I mean, like I understand the mechanics, or maybe they don't feel that it's something they feel comfortable talking about, so that they don't talk about it. But I do know when I talk about it with the people who knows I've been talking about it for like quite a while, they are like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I understand that you go on campaigning every day, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And you obviously would like to talk about renewable energy, right? And this one time, Gita Wiryawan,
Yeah.
you've heard of the name?
Yeah, I'm very familiar.
Yeah, I forgot what you said. I have a hazy memory, but I'm pretty sure you said this, Mr.
Wiryawan.
Wiryawan. I'm pretty sure you said this, Mr. Wiryawan. You said renewable energy and sustainable development is not exactly a problem that a lot of common people relate to. I am unsure if I misconstrued your words or if, I got them. I mistakenly got them, but let's assume it's that. And let's fact check after the show. So, how do you communicate the urgency of needing, renewable energy in when you belusukkan over to the common folk?
So actually, I had a kind of like this focus group discussion with young politicians from across the board about environmental issues.
Yeah, from every other parties. From every other parties?
Yeah, coalition as well as non-coalition parties.
I see.
So more and more of us are aware of what needs to be done. And wait, remind me again. Let's scroll back a bit. You were asking.
I was asking, how would you communicate to the common folk?
Yeah, and
about the renewable energy.
So I have to thank this guy, Pak Dino Patijalal. He'd been thinking about this phrase for a few years. So I kind of want to air it out a bit, Pak Dino.
Yeah, a bit about Pak Dino, Mr. Dino Patijalal. He's the former Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs in the SB era, Vice Deputy to Mr. Marty Natalegawa, and he's the chief. What is his? He's the owner. No, not the owner. He's the head of FPCI, Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. Yeah, that's where they talk about foreign policy and shit.
So he was saying, I think. So there was him, and there was there was Dr. Agus Sari, who was also a scientist, who kind of like got involved with environmental activism, and I was like very intrigued. So he's been thinking about this for a while, and he came up with this phrase, "Neraka bocor," hell is leaking out. Yeah. So literally, hell is hot.
Hell is hot.
I mean, like common people know hell is hot,
yeah,
right?
Hell is hot.
And it's leaking out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been having, this is December. Today, at midday, it was 35 degrees Celsius.
Today? It was 35 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it was really hot. I was considering, I was gonna take the motorcycle ojek, right? And I was considering, maybe I don't really want to suit up in my party jacket,
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel sometimes a bit vulnerable because I have to be, like,
dude, I don't get it. Your party jacket is like super puffy. Like, how do you guys find yourself comfortable?
I just like switch
sweltering heat.
Just like people do, like the ice bath thing. I switch off in my brain that part of discomfort. It's kind of like mind over It's will over matter.
I see,
like
will
training
over
myself,
matter
yeah.
whenever you wear a party jacket.
Yeah.
So it's like a requirement for all Indonesian Solidarity Party members to endure the sweltering heat inside that puffy jacket.
Yeah. So I just kind of like have this like mental thing, but I was considering, okay, I was gonna ride without a jacket,
Yeah.
And then I stepped out and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put on my jacket.
I see.
Yeah.
Why would you put on your jacket in the sweltering heat?
It was kind of more. I mean, like it was kind of painful.
It was painful?
Yeah, I mean, like.
What do you mean?
It was
the heat was painful.
The solar ray was painful to my skin, so.
Do you have like thin skin, vulnerable skin?
Yeah, it burns easily. So.
Oh, I see.
So I mean, like it was either I get burns, or I get sweaty. So I chose the latter.
Yeah. So you chose the sweaty.
Yeah, I chose the sweaty part.
I see. I think all Indonesians must endure being sweaty.
Yeah.
So I now understand that that's how you communicate about climate change and renewable energy to the people. Like, okay, so this is happening. There's no rain. The weather is changing, and to do that, it's simple. You need to start using different energies. Is that what you tell them?
So what I tell them is, which is truth, that let's say someone comes along and gives you a solar panel for free, and you want to use that to reduce your electricity bill, because obviously paying 10% of your salary in electricity is a lot. I'm quite sure people in Europe who are in winter right now can relate to me, whether they kind of like want to spend more money in food or less money in heating. Got that dilemma going on, especially with the war going on. It's almost 2 years now. So in terms of what they do is they need to agree to a certain set of policy. Let's say if someone installs, if there are incentives for putting up solar panels on the roof, which all of them have. I mean, like they have roofs, and they can use it to connect to the national grid. Technically, they will be selling electricity. And right now, the regulation forbids people from connecting solar panel to the national grid.
I see.
You kind of need to have, you need to be registered as a company and have energy generation and trading license to be able to have this thing called meter exim, or like export-import electricity meter, which will calculate your electricity bill based on that. And it's kind of like you can only use it for a maximum of 15%, I think, of your maximum electricity capacity. So let's say if you have like 900 watts, you can use a maximum of like 100 something. I mean, 200 watts. I mean, what can you use for that? I mean, not even, maybe like a few light bulbs, but it's not useful enough.
Yeah.
It's.
I can imagine.
And then they were surprised to find out that it's actually, if they bought something and they put it on their roof, if they bought a solar panel and they put it on their roof, or someone donates a solar panel to them, they cannot use it on the grid. They were quite shocked. They actually wanted to save money by obviously connecting the solar panel to the grid, so it can kind of balance off, when they are not using it, when they are not at home. Maybe some people in the mall who use electricity could use electricity that was generated by panels, like solar panels, instead of like fossil fuel. That kind of like starts to save a little bit on the barrage of assault that we give to our environment, to sky.
Yeah.
I don't think that to be honest, it will completely go away. Fossil fuel will completely go away because there is always going to be like, you know, extra load during certain times of the day. Let's say at night we will probably use like kind of more classic forms of electricity energy generation. But during the day, I mean, this is a tropical country. We are on the equator. We are blessed with a lot of solar heat.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we should make use of that.
Country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't throw it away.
You should start utilizing to its maximum potential. Pretty much. But I can see that environmental issues, especially climate change and renewable energy, is your primary focus, and it seems like you've understood how to communicate it to the people, and you understood the problems they have in comprehending all of that. Now that's pretty much something that I don't really see with a lot of representatives these days. I would like to reiterate the point that I'd like to make before. You're pretty much one of the kind. There's no candidates there. I don't see any candidates around talking about, you know, problems in the future. It's always the same thing over and over again. And you pretty much have my thumbs up for that.
Cool, thanks a lot. I do want to save money, like expenses, for kind of like these kind of people who don't have much, who live on like $300 or less a month.
Yeah.
And they do need
per capita for them is really low.
Yeah, and they really need help in terms of better living better living conditions. If we just subsidize, that's a lot of expenses. I'm quite sure every one of us here doesn't really like to have a tax rate hike. So how do we do with what's already existing in terms of income? How do we economize without giving up too much on the comforts, but we increase the living standard for everyone? And clean air is for everyone.
I see, yeah. It's a very, that's a very rare conclusion to make from an Indonesian politician. I hope more politicians are like you in the future.
I hope so. It needs to be done. We are already a bit late. We are already, I think, past the point of 1.5 degrees of like temperature increase for this century. So we are actually already kind of like living on borrowed time. Please take your head out of the sand and do something about it.
Take your head outside of the fucking hole, guys, and actually do something about it. Stop thinking about your money. Stop thinking about your money if you don't want to think about the environment. It's gonna fuck you up, and it's gonna burn your entire money and your entire savings and your entire asset. So do something about it. Yeah.
Let's say if you make a lot of money, but you cannot buy food.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
What's the point of having a lot of money if you cannot even feed yourself?
Yeah, it's just, money is just going to be saved in vain, pretty much.
So let's not save money in vain, yeah?
Let's start saving money in vain by investing in renewable energy. So, pretty much we talked about your campaign focus and all of that, and also a bit about your background and all of that. Now, I want to ask you about, recent issues. So, as a member of the Indonesian Solidarity Party, your chairman is, again, if you don't like the questions, you don't want to answer them, it's fine. We can cut it away. We can skip this question, and I'll come up with another question. I certainly had prepared a few questions in my mind, more than 3 questions actually, but I'm just going to ask 3 questions. 2 about recent issues, 1 about yourself. Yeah, so as a member of the Indonesian Solidarity Party, your chairman is Mr. Kaesang Effect. He is the youngest son of our current incumbent president, Joko Widodo, as you know, in case my international viewers don't know. So yeah, the president's kid is the leader of the Indonesian Solidarity Party, kinda. So, kinda. So,
What do you mean?
Sorry, this is an insider thing. Anyways, and there's plenty of allegations regarding, this party fully condones political dynasty and dynastic politics. And as a member of the Indonesian Solidarity Party, how do you respond to that?
I'm gonna use a little bit of my insider knowledge, my own experience, because everyone knew he got his huge membership card on Saturday. Actually, I'm part of the administrators for the Central Management Office of the party. And on Saturday night, I heard that there was gonna be an event happening on Monday night. So on Sunday, at that time, I had one of the head of Indonesian Solidarity Party's one of the branches overseas. He was visiting. So I called him and I told him he better make his way to Jakarta, and he gave me excuses, and I told him again in no uncertain tone he better make it to Jakarta. And then he said, okay, fine, I will try to rearrange. So he rearranged his tickets. At the same time, to make sure that he was not gonna go around or shirt me, I called the the head of the province where this guy was staying, and
the head of the province.
Yeah, the head of the Solidarity Party, Indonesian Solidarity Party provincial office. I was I was not gonna have this guy not turn up.
Yeah, I thought for a second there you were trying to call up Ganjar Pranowo. I was like, what?
No, not the governor, just like the head of Indonesian Solidarity Party for that
province, which was Central.
I'm not gonna say which province. Anyway,
okay.
I called him and I told him, there's my guy in your area, make sure he gets to Jakarta.
Okay.
Yeah. So the following day, on the Monday morning, I called him again. I asked him, so what's going on? Oh yeah, he's making his way. I mean, like this overseas guy is making his way to Jakarta. Oh, okay, good. Not with you? No, not with him. So I asked this provincial party head again.
Yes.
Isn't it better to do it kind of like slowly? I mean, we have this president of Sis Inang, Irma Huta Barat, who was appointed as a spokesperson for corruption matters. And this person snapped back at me. Sis, Kaesang has to be the head of the party. We cannot afford to be out of Senayan for another cycle.
I see.
So, I mean, I'm a central headquarter guy, and this is a provincial guy, and he was telling me
what to do.
Yeah, he wanted Kaesang to be the head of the party. And before every kind of like huge event, which we call Kopdarnas, there would be like a working meeting of all the provincial heads. So they decided in like overwhelming majority was voting for Kaesang to be the head of the party.
Oh.
Yeah.
They did?
They did.
How about you, headquarters people? Is that okay to share it?
I didn't know much actually, because I was already quite involved with the walkabouts and my own
I see.
pre-campaign preparation.
I see.
but I do know a lot of people are very, very happy about it.
In favor of it.
Yes.
I see.
And the more I do, I mean, I've been doing walkabouts since before he joined. It becomes easier. A lot easier.
I get it. So at first, a lot of people were uncertain, but then they realized that this needs to happen in order to, to make the Indonesian Solidarity Party actually give that roses to people. Do you get me?
I do.
So,
So it's kind of like a
It
push.
was-
A push.
it
I
is
think
necessary.
it's kind of a push
necessary.
a push that the party needed.
okay, I get it. Are you not confident that figures like Kirin Ganesha or Grace Natalie are able to take the same take the same pull as Kaesang does?
We are talking about. I mean, like, I hate to talk about this, but
Oh, it's okay. We don't have to talk about it.
I mean, it spiked up. Like, he joined in, like, he became the head of the
October.
party. He joined in September,
Oh, so yeah,
late September,
Late September.
and he became head of the party not long after. So we had like a spike. October was like, whoosh. Like new login rates through the roof.
I see.
Crazy. Like, that is the power. I mean, like,
That is the Kaesang Effect.
that's the guy. I mean, like, the guy has clout.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like.
Well, maybe, being the Prince of Indonesia certainly helps.
Well, no, a lot of the people who join, I mean, like, I'm a deputy secretary, so
Yes.
from time to time I collect data and I call people up just to kind of like, make them feel welcome, that, someone's paying attention to them. Oh, like you pay attention to the badak.
Would you like this?
No, it's okay.
Do you like
Go
to
ahead.
speak using plushies?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
So,
So I know.
and a lot of them,
That's what
they
it talks.
actually got interested in politics because Kaesang is in politics. They were into Kaesang, and when he decided to go into politics, they also decided to go into politics.
I see. So the Kaesang Effect is real, ladies
It's
and
real. I
gentlemen.
mean, it's quantifiable.
Yeah, but a lot of people I see on the internet, they seem to be really against Kaesang's appointment as the chairman of the party.
Well, the numbers speak.
The numbers speaks that they are.
You can have a platform and be against him, but the numbers, the bulk of people who join, wow. I look at the graph and I'm like, yeah, no debat.
I see. That I understand. Thanks for sharing that one. Moving on to the second question. This is still about this is still the same about your opinion and sentiments, but this time not for Kaesang Pangarep, the chairman, or PSI, or the Indonesian Solidarity Party, but what do you think of the Indonesian Solidarity Party's decision to throw its lot behind the Prabowo-led coalition? Because as we know, the Indonesian Solidarity Party is social democrats, right? They're very left in the Indonesian spectrum. And meanwhile, the leading members of the coalition, Gerindra, PAN, and Golkar, they're known to be conservative and nationalist. What do you think of that? I know political spectrum plays little in Indonesian politics, but still it's worth a discussion if we're talking about principles.
Well, I think it's about being a balance, right? I mean, if you are, this is one thing which is something that I do is I keep an eye on, let's say, candidates I don't like or I even don't choose to vote for. Why? Because I don't want to have a confirmation bias. So by being in the same coalition, I see it as not so much, I mean, like, it's like, okay, it's kind of centrist in a way, but I believe you were saying that the Indonesian Solidarity Party is kind of like slight center left. Very slightly center left.
Yes.
Whereas the other ones are kind of center right.
Yeah, center right to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that provides a differentiating point in a way.
A differentiating point as in, would you mind elaborating?
And the red is redder.
The red is redder.
The rose is redder.
The rose is... Are you talking about everybody in PSI turning Republicans?
No, but I mean, the red that we say here in Indonesia is not Republican. It's more like
social.
left. It's social.
So
socialist. The rose is redder.
Yeah, the rose is redder.
Yeah.
I still don't
It's I mean, like, because we're on this centrist spectrum, but we're kind of the most left of the centrist spectrum out of this coalition in a way. The other one are kind of like more to the right. I mean, like, it's a spectrum, right? It's a huge spectrum. And you have the very right, obviously. Wait, the very right for me.
Far right.
Far right. Okay. And then you have the kind of like the center, and you have the left. And I think PSI is kind of like here-ish.
Yeah, center left.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does it compromise with the rest of the center right and the right? In the case of Gerindra, definitely right wing.
Well, I think in a way it's a check and balances thing. So
it's a checks and balances thing.
Yeah.
So PSI is there just for checks and balances.
I mean, like, if you have this like super center in the middle, and then it's like
I see.
this, right?
I see. Not because Jokowi is endorsing.
Well, there is that too. But to be honest, for me personally, it's less of a decision. I mean, in my family, in 2012, when we had 5 options for the gubernatorial election in Jakarta, my dad, my mom, and I all chose different candidates. So
I see.
I don't see it as a, I see it as a, I mean, like, not everyone in the same house has to be voting for the same candidates for the same party.
I see.
So I'm very okay with that. Maybe that comes from, maybe that comes from a very like politically aware family, from my dad. Hi, Dad.
Hi, Uncle.
So yeah, we have that tradition. So I think it's quite funny. A few months ago, I got questions from like Indonesian Solidarity Party administrators in Europe, because my dad is very pro one of the other ones. I would say, nggak usah sebut merek.
Okay.
And he was disappointed. He had been, he voted for the Indonesian Solidarity Party in 2019, which is like part of the 1.89% of people who really believed in the cause of the party, myself as well. So he was kind of like gutted when he found out, and he was disappointed.
I get it.
And I was just like bearing the brunt.
Why Indonesian Solidarity Party? Why did you jump ship, man?
And I was like,
why did you jump ship?
And I was like, well, he's my dad, like,
are they not social democrats enough for you guys? What is so social democratic about Prabowo, man? What is social democratic about it?
So I think he passed about 10 days in like, this kind of like anger mode, while I was on denial mode.
I see. So,
and
things inside the household wasn't really warm, I guess.
It warmed. We managed to solve it after 10 days.
Course.
So it's okay.
That's just family,
That's family.
You solve things, you get into fights, things get tense, but then you miss the warmth of the home. And so you sort things out.
So we sorted things out, we talked it out. So it's quite funny in a way. So yeah, everyone asked me why my dad like went that way, and I was like, he didn't join the party,
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's kind of free to do what he wants.
I see. Everybody's free to make their choices.
Yeah, right.
I see.
But he's still voting for the Indonesian Solidarity Party, so
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Kudos to you guys.
Yeah, so it's I mean like, yeah, he still believes in the legislative candidates' dedication for making the country a better place to live in.
Confidence and faith is what people need to have in their representatives. Now, lack of confidence and faith in representatives is actually a bad thing, because it doesn't give power to the people who actually deserves it, who needs it to make the world, make Indonesia a better place. So yeah, don't miss out your chance on choosing the right representative, guys.
I think if you live overseas, you will have 2 voting papers. If you've been thinking about too much about one of them, of the gray colored one, you better think about the yellow colored one too. You kind of want to cover your bases, you don't want to be standing at the booth, open up this huge piece of paper and like, oh shit, what do I choose? Okay, ini, mini, miny, mo. You don't want to do that.
Somebody here is campaigning. It's definitely not me.
Well, probably someone else, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely someone else. Moving on.
Anyway.
Yeah, so before we started this entire episode, we were actually talking about some anime, right? Yeah. So Mrs. Marsha Siagian here, she walked in with this, right, blasting Japanese music, and I was like, wow, it is wow. Are you also a fellow weebo? And she was like,
I was a weeb.
She was at first like, no, I do not watch weeb. I am not a weeb. Do you watch anime? I watch a bit of anime. I watch a bit of anime. She said so confidently, I watch a bit of anime, and then proceeded to list it out. Gundam, Sailor Moon, Code Geass, right?
You forgot to mention
Evangelion, right? And so like all of those titles she mentioned, I was like, damn, you must be a hardcore weeb back in the days. But it's understandable that she that she covers her weeb identity, because she grew up in a time when being a weeb is sacrilege. It's the huge.
It was like a huge sin,
It's a huge sin to be a weeb. Whenever you're a weeb, you're a fucking degenerate, bro. Get away from them, man. Yeah. And being Miss Indonesia, being one of the Miss Indonesian candidates, like, that was a no-no. That was you're Miss Indonesia.
Thanks for the platform. I'm just gonna ask my compatriots who was in the same year with me. Did any of you watch anime, or is it just me?
I don't know. Do they watch anime? You should know. Yeah.
I mean, I knew my uni friends. I mean, we were watching animes back to back. I mean, I had like these like Indonesian friends at uni who would every holiday buy like stacks of VCDs.
VCDs?
Yeah, with
oh my God, that is so ancient. Gila, kuno banget ya. Zaman sekarang tuh manggap bat, streamio, apalagi. Lu nonton anime gak, Dar? Kagak. Lu nonton anime gak? Nonton anime tuh udah di streaming zaman sekarang.
So now they would have like episode 1 to 10 in this VCD, and another like the other episodes of the series and season 2, and and we would be exchanging, we would be comparing like who has what. I think there was like strawberry shortcake or something.
Strawberry shortcake.
This guy, I think this guy in my university, he was like, I found out he had strawberry shortcake, and I was like, huh?
No.
Yeah, I was like, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah. You were a Miss Indonesia contestant, right?
That's right.
And you watch anime. If back then that secret came out, it was Jover. It's definitely gonna be Jover. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah. What?
You reckon?
I reckon it was Jover. You were like Miss Indonesia back in like what, 2005, 2006?
Yeah, 2006.
That was like what? Oh my God, that was like the peak of when you're a weeb. You're like, you watch anime? Nerd. Yeah, but now we nerds, we rule the world.
Yeah.
And actually, this is so funny, right? Back then, nerds used to watch anime. Read philosophy. Meanwhile, the jocks they watch the big blockbuster movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the nerds watch the big blockbuster movies. The jocks they watch anime and read philosophy.
I find it so weird that a lot of people now there are like communities for like Hayao Miyazaki movies. I mean, like I watched
Ghibli movies.
Yeah, Ghibli movies. I mean, I watched a lot of them when I was at uni. And I was surprised. I thought that was weird. And there would be people coming along and say like, oh yeah, I like Ponyo. And I'm like,
what?
Excuse me? You know, I like other things. I like The Cat Returns.
I see.
Kind of the more obscure ones.
Yeah. I can tell you this with great confidence, Marsha. It is now no longer weird to like anime. It is cool.
It is cool now to like anime.
Sekarang keren untuk suka anime, guys. Tepuk tangan dong. Yeah. So I like to, out of all your anime options, what is your favorite one?
But that's a bit hard. I think
this is all
if I have to rewatch. If I had to rewatch.
I know for a fact you're a real weeb because when I gave you that question, you were like, "Oh yeah, this is hard." That is a real.
I mean, like I had options, right? I mean, like
that is hard.
I don't have.
If you knew exactly what the answer is, you're not a real weeb, right?
I would say. I mean, I'm afraid it now. I think everyone's. The last one I watched was like Yuri on Ice, but
Yuri on Ice.
But no. What I want to rewatch.
Yuri on fucking Ice, man.
So many issues.
So many issues, man.
And the one I wanted to rewatch, now that you mention it, was actually personally for me it's more like Evangelion.
Evangelion is your favorite anime?
No, I want to rewatch that because when I watched that as a 14-year-old, I didn't understand. I maybe understood about like 20%, 30% of it.
Yeah, I watched it like when I was 14 years old. I didn't understand jack shit about it either.
I was like, why are they so upset, you know?
Yeah, I mean, back then Hideaki Anno was kind of depressed over the entire situation of his life. You know, he was a 25 years old anime director, and he was a weeb back in the 90s, and he had like a failing marriage. So who wouldn't be depressed, right?
Yeah, the entire thing reeks of depression.
You should watch Rebuild of Evangelion. Have you watched the Rebuild of Evangelion series?
I mean, like I barely have enough time to sleep, so I don't. Yeah, maybe after the campaign season.
Does your family know you like anime? Like your husband?
Yeah, my husband definitely knows. Yeah.
Your French husband?
Well, they consume a lot of anime, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Your French husband, he consumes a lot of anime too.
He consumes a lot of manga.
Of course, because I heard that France was the first country to accept manga imports.
I mean, like if you want, remind me to send me these pictures of the manga rack in an airport. In a regional international airport in France. Crazy ass.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like...
Let me guess, he likes to read Lupin the Third?
I don't know.
You don't
know? He kind of reads kind of more like obscure ones nowadays.
Obscure.
I mean, like I would be looking over his shoulder and I'll be like, I don't relate to that one.
Yeah. That is touche.
Yeah.
It is touche. Very touche. So
I would rewatch Evangelion, and probably that you mentioned Code Geass being kind of like politically loaded.
It's very politically loaded.
Code Geass
you said you watched it, right?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, but did you watch the entire thing until it was finished, or what?
Yeah, I did. I watched.
That was back in 2005.
Yeah.
You watched it back when you were 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would watch it again probably to remind myself of the plots.
You are an ancient weeb. You need to let everybody know you're a weeb. It sells, you know. No need to campaign about renewable energy or climate change. All you need to do is like, hey, I'm a weeb. I'm a weeb. I read manga. I read manga. I read manga. I watch anime.
You should say you watched,
Instant
but you did
representative.
watch Yuri on Ice.
Me?
Yeah.
I watched like 2 episodes of it.
And what do you think of that?
It's gay. It's gay. What do you expect? I don't mean it in a bad way. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it actually is gay. You know, it's
Well, it's known in. I mean, like.
yaoi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gay. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's
It's just
Yeah, it's
what it
just
seems to be. I mean,
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
the last anime I watched was, I actually read a lot of mangas these days, mostly obscure ones, mostly with the psychological tag, because I feel like when you get older, right, it feels like you want a story that's more raw, you
Yeah.
know, raw, realistic.
I mean, the
you know.
shonen thing wears off, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm so
wears
sorry.
off.
I did tell myself I was gonna follow Detective Conan
Yeah.
until the end, but now it's like he's doing this again. Can we skip, please? I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like he has his mark.
One of my cameraman is already like checking the time. Like I guess like we're really, you know, taking our sweet time in this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just
Your weep
Yeah. She's a
representative.
weeb, you know. Onnanoko fuck weebu desu. Oh my god. You speak Japanese?
I used to, but I will need a bit of warm up to do that.
Skoshi dake. Yeah.
Sugoi desu ne.
Yeah, sugoi desu is just, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the only Japanese you can speak?
No, I think I can talk other thing.
You can speak French. Show everybody, you know, your capabilities in speaking French. You know, parler français.
Mais je parle pas assez français,
Yeah, there you
monsieur,
go.
parce que je crois c'est déjà 5 ou 6 mois passés depuis la dernière fois j'étais en France.
Voilà.
Mais c'est juste très simple.
Il est parlé français. Ah fuck, I can't
Non.
speak French.
Mais c'est pas un problème si tu peux pas parler en français, monsieur.
Oh, what is your problem with French?
No, I was saying it's not a problem if you cannot speak
Oh
French.
yeah, I do not speak French, but I do need to speak French.
Mais
these
tu peux
days.
parler en japonais peut-être? You can speak in Japanese perhaps?
Skoshi dake. Can only. I used to. My French understanding is a bit. It's so rusty. I studied it for 2 years and then I never really got to use it. Because who speaks French in fucking Jakarta? Who speaks French?
The chef of Amus.
Yeah, but I don't really meet chefs that often, now do I? And Japanese, I have a lot of comprehension about Japanese, but it is also rusty as well.
Yeah, mine's a bit rusty because I haven't watched a lot of animes.
Yeah.
in the
I
past
notice
few
like when you
years.
speak French, your body language kind of changes. You know?
Really?
Yeah, like when you speak English, you're more relaxed. But when you speak French, it's like I need to sound like a French lady.
Mais
I need to speak like a Parisienne, you know. Yeah.
I think it's also because I started learning English when I was 7 years old, so that was the kind of cutoff age for language acquisition
Yeah.
in a kind of more natural sense.
Yeah, I guess so.
And
guess so.
I had to learn French
Yeah.
at school when I moved to Australia. I was 14.
Yeah.
And I kind of had to catch up with what my friends had been studying for the past 3 to 5 years before I moved. So,
Yeah.
and I had to have all of that condensed in 2 months.
Uh-huh.
So that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, but now you speak it so fluently. Yeah, like that.
So that the speaker is closer
Yeah.
to the ears,
That
guys.
is such a French thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so yeah.
I guess I pick it up from my husband.
Yeah.
Hello, husband. Are you watching this? Can
I
you
guess
do that
so, I
less,
guess so.
please?
But yeah, whenever somebody speaks in a different language and their body language changes, it's a mark that they're fluent inside that language. When I speak English, you know, my body language changes, when I speak Indonesian, I don't have any sort of body language, and I don't really know how to respond confidently. But when I speak English, you know, it's just people say I'm more charismatic, you know, I guess. So
you would have more control of your vocabulary, of the tones that you use.
More tone, and I feel like English is even more expressive. Meanwhile, Indonesian, you know, when I want to express myself in a more eloquent manner, it seems it comes off as cringe. Because who speaks, you know, eloquent Indonesian these days? But academics.
Yeah, eloquent Indonesian, you would find it in the books of Pramudia, I think. I've read a few, but I mean, if you read Bumi Manusia, the tetralogy of Buru Islands, that's kind of depressing.
It's kind of depressing.
I mean, you can see the guy went through some hard stuff in his life, and that came out in those 4 books. When I was reading his works from the early 90s, it was kind of more sparkling, you know, kind of fizzy. I mean, like, he had hopes, you know, but the guy came back from Buru a broken man.
I guess it's a really dark book to have. I mean, I read Dostoevsky, so nothing can really deter me anymore. Do I look like a guy that reads Dostoevsky? I guess so.
I did get started with like the first 30 pages, and I was like, huh.
Yeah, Dostoevsky, you know, you kind of have to grow on you because the story can get a bit too bleak at times.
Yeah, so I did the easy way out. I watched the movie.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, looks like all our cameramen are signaling me.
They are checking out.
Yeah, they're like this. You know,
it's like, time to go. You've overstayed. You're welcome.
You know, they want the show to end quick when they do this. When they look at when they go to their cameras, right, and then they check like.
Wait. Do you know
that's
how?
A signal for us.
And when they turn on the light at the back.
When they turn on the light at the back, did they? Oh yes, they did turn on the light at the back. All right then.
All right.
I guess.
All right, folks.
It's time to feed our cameramen, or else the show cannot go on. Since we need our cameramen in top and fit condition. But thank you very much.
Thank
Mrs.
you
Marsha,
as
for
well
joining us today.
for hosting today and for inviting me here.
You're welcome. I will. Thank you very much, Mrs. Marsha, for coming to us today. Did I repeat my thank you again?
Why not?
So.
You can repeat it 4
not?
times.
I guess I'll repeat it 5 times. Anyways, I hope you had a nice session here today.
It's been really relaxing talking about these things.
And it's been like eye-opening to know that you're also a fellow weeb. This gal here, she's a true weeb. Yeah. But yeah, I will, for my viewers, I will continue doing this. I will continue inviting other representatives from different party where we sit down, talk about politics, and occasionally anime. So, but I have been really gracious to have you as my first guest today, a fellow weeb.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
There you
It's
have
a pleasure
it,
to be normal. Okay, folks, we're gonna check out.
Folks. We're gonna check out, and I'll see you soon in the Base Indonesian Talks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Subscribe to the Based Indonesian Show. Dijamin halal